It is with great pleasure that in a few moments, I will ask Jessica Sears to come forward and speak to us. Jessica, do you want to stand up, Jessica? There she is. Many of you know her. Just come on up. Jessica grew up in East Brady. She was the daughter, is the daughter of Peter Sears, who was the pastor at the Christian Missionary Alliance Church here in Brady. And while she was in Brady, she knew a lot of you, and she participated in our youth program for quite a while. And now, in 18 days, Jessica is going to Africa for 4 months as a missionary. And you see the graphic there, and you can see that little country there. And she's going to tell you a little bit about it here. So please welcome back to East Brady Baptist Church, Jessica Sears, who you have all been praying for, and I know you've supported her. But welcome her, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what she's going to be doing.
Hi guys. So I'm going to Burkina Faso, and I'm going to be an intern for the Christian Missionary Alliance Envision mission team there. And their main job is to organize what church groups are going to do when they come over for a week as a mission group. So they decide what ministry that church group is going to be a part of, where they're going to stay, how they're going to get their food, all of that stuff. So they have many different ministries that they're involved in, and I'm going to be their intern, so I'll do whatever they ask me. So you can go to the next one. There's Burkina Faso, and right next to it is Mali, and Mali is where the Ebola is, and Burkina Faso is where the Ebola is not. So not going to get Ebola at the moment. They're not dismissing the possibility completely, because obviously people travel by airline and between the countries pretty easily, but in the city they have treatment clinics, and they're more able to enforce quarantine. The reason why it's spreading so much is that people are refusing to stay in the hospitals, and they're running home and they're spreading it because they live very closely together in Mali. So you can go to the next one. I'm going to be staying in the capital city of Ouagadougou. Anybody want to try and say it? Ouagadougou. I'm still working on spelling it. The A's confuse me, so I have to work on that. But Ouagadougou has a population of about 1 million. Burkina Faso as a whole has a population of 13 million. So I'll be living right in the city limits, and I have a picture on the next slide. So that's pretty much what it looks like. It's more colorful than I expected, way more colorful than American cities, which is awesome. The religion there is 50% Muslim and 10% Roman Catholic, and about 40% indigenous religions in the bush country surrounding the city. So they do have a great need for mission work there, and mostly education and mercy missions. You can go to the next slide. This is what the typical house that a Burkina Faso would live in. It's a very, very poor country. They are landlocked, so trade is more difficult and expensive. People mostly just trade within themselves. They try to grow their own food, which becomes difficult with the climate there and the weather. The wind is horrible. It destroys crops and homes all the time. They have pretty bad rains during the rainy season, so it's difficult for them to keep up. So that's pretty much what they look like and where they live. The next one. This is their water. The Envision team's big ministry there is digging wells. So they send teams out into the villages surrounding the city to dig wells so they can have clean water. The average person walks 4 to 5 miles a day to get that and to drink that. So we try to help them as much as we can with the water issue. I mean, the unsanitary conditions, it's a wonder not all of them have Ebola all the time. Go to the next one. Oh yeah, there's them digging wells. Aren't they fun? I will not be digging wells, sadly. I might end up going just to work with food or organizing inventory or something, but I'm not going to be doing the actual digging because this is going to be my typical outfit. I have to wear skirts. When I am doing ministry in the bush, they have to be ankle length. If I'm doing ministry in the city, it has to cover my knees. If I'm not doing ministry, I'll have to wear jeans or capris. I can only wear shorts in my own home. Okay, the next one. Another one of their ministries is to build church hangars for those villages that want to have a place to worship. So they go and they build just a basic pavilion, and oftentimes the closest church to that village will sponsor building walls so that they have more protection from the elements. Oh, this is what the weather will do. So another one of their ministries is going around and repairing homes and public buildings that have been ruined by the storms there. They call it Wawa, West African weather again. Another one of the ministries is English camps. I'm going to be teaching English as well. I'll be helping a lot with this, which will be fun. So they want to educate them and give them a way to interact with the rest of the world. English is a very popular language. If you want a professional job, you will most likely be required to learn English. So they try to start with the adults so that it moves down through the children and that every household will have at least one educated person there so they have a better chance of getting jobs. This is what their school will look like. Just a few kids will be able to attend. A lot of them have to work with their parents, so only a few are able to go. They do have ceiling fans. Woohoo! One of their ministries also is to provide handicap bikes for those who cannot use their legs, so they have pedals on the handlebars. That way they're able to get back and forth to get water, to get food, to go into the city for jobs, and just to be more mobile, because oftentimes if you have a handicapped person in your household, you're not going to have enough to support them as well. They're kind of a big burden, so it's great when they can give them mobility and those people can become a part of society and the community too. Here's the orphanage. They're partnered with one of the orphanages nearby, so a couple nights a week, one of the women on my team, she volunteers there, and they offer a lot of monetary support, and I'm hoping to join her those couple nights a week to work with the babies. Look at them. They're so cute. They also work with Tom's Shoes. It's a brand here in America. When you buy a pair of Tom's shoes, they donate a pair to another country, and Burkina Faso is one of the countries that receives those donations. So every year, sometimes twice a year, they have a huge shipload of shoes come in, and they distribute those to the children and the adults, as many as they can. This is what I'll be doing. So 2 nights a week, I'll be working with teaching English as a second language to adults. I'll also be working with Pan Bila, which is a local school, and I'll be teaching the youngest classes. I'm not exactly sure what I'll be teaching them because they speak French, and I do not speak French, but I'll be helping in any way that I can. I'll also be working with the Street Boys ministry. They haven't given me many details on this, but I'm assuming I'm working with the Street Boys, which will be fun too. I'm not sure if it's a shelter that provides a home for them or if they just go out on the street and talk to any boys who are willing to speak to them, provide food, probably clothing as well. And I'll be working with the English-speaking youth ministry. So the youth there who have been educated and speak English and are part of the churches already, I'll be working with them too. So that's it. Thank you.
The first one, just can you tell us a little bit about your faith journey with Jesus Christ? And just so you all know, I emailed her these questions ahead of time, so she knows what's coming at her. But can you tell us a little bit about your faith journey with Jesus?
Well, as Mark said, my father is a minister, so I did grow up in a very Christian home, which was a great upbringing, but being a pastor's daughter comes with a lot of expectation as well. And in your teenage years, nobody wants any expectation whatsoever, so kind of let it slide for a while, ran away from it quite a bit, but actually my biggest rebellion was to start coming here to Sunday services. I was like, I'm not going to be with my family at church anymore, I'm coming here. And it did cause some disruption, but I remember the second week that I came, Pastor Tom said, "What are you doing here again? Are you having a fight with your dad?" And I was like, "No." And he started to walk away, but then he came back and he put his hand on me and he said, "You know, we don't care why you're here, we're just glad that you are." And that's when I began to realize that church was more than expectation and showing up. It's real love, and people do want to see you there, and you can have an impact, and they can impact you too. And then when our church started to close down, I guess one of the hardest parts was seeing how much my family gave up. We've moved to 7 different churches or so, and so leaving friends and family all the time and often going to worse places where we had to give up even more was more difficult, and I didn't understand why my dad would do that to our family just for something that I didn't understand at all. But when the East Brady Church closed, I don't know, something happened, and I just began to see that anything I did have came from God, and I did have enough. And this community itself completely took care of us. My dad would go to Riverside to get groceries, and there'd be gift certificates laid aside for him from anonymous donors. And so our family was completely taken care of during that time when my family had no income until we found our church in Springville, which has been wonderful to us. And particularly when I went to college, my faith started to grow a lot more, and I knew that I wanted to give more of my life, all of my life, to that faith.
Right, good. Wow, in less than 3 weeks, you leave for 4 months for Burkina Faso. Your real life, honest to goodness, long-term missionary in Africa. You know, where there's that cliche like missionaries go to Africa, and most missionaries you talk to aren't in Africa. Jessica, you're going to Africa. It blows my mind. How mind-blowing is that to you? Just sit back and think about that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think the next question you asked when I decided to become
Yes, when did you start to realize God may be calling you to do long-term mission work in a foreign
Right.
country?
It's crazy because I actually said that I wanted to be a missionary to Africa when I was 7 years old. You know, when the missionary comes and talks to the children, they ask you to close your eyes and say, raise your hand if you want to be a missionary. And I raised my hand and I was like, yeah, that's me. And he said, well, I'm going to pray for anybody who raised their hand. And I guess when you pray when you're young, you pray like, please let me grow up to be a firefighter. Please let me go to the zoo next week. For that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of like, make me a missionary, make me a missionary. And it's weird. So be careful what you pray for when you're young, because it might happen later on. But it's amazing that I'm going to be a part of something so much bigger than myself. And honestly, I don't feel ready. I mean, I'm ready, but I don't feel completely capable. There's still so much more that I need to learn about selflessness and self-sacrifice and yeah.
Well, I guess it leads into the question. I mean, you had that experience when you were little, make me missionary, but then you did talk about how, you know, your faith kind of was, you know, just kind of there a little bit throughout your life. And then when you got to college, it was when you really started pursuing your faith. I mean, how did you decide, yes, I mean, as an adult, this is what God wants me to do? Not this is what I want to do, but this is what God wants me to do.
Well, sophomore year, I became a lot closer with some friends who were more involved in missions. They were always going on mission trips, and I wanted to as well. And I was thinking more seriously about completely committing my life to full-time missions. So I started looking at the Envision webpage to see what they had to offer. And I was thinking I'll start with like a 2-week mission trip or something over Christmas break, and then maybe do a summer just to see if that's what I would like. And then after graduation, maybe I'll go to mission school and make that my life. So I was looking at just going for 2 weeks or so, and then, I don't know, I was watching YouTube videos, and I watched a music video for They Will Know We Are Christians by Our Love, and the pictures and the video footage was all of African children, and I just started sobbing like crazy, and I was like, yeah, that's where I'm going, and that's what I want to do. And I called Pastor Mark, and I said, this is what I'm doing. I need you to be a reference. And I emailed David, and I said, what's your dad's email? I need him to be a reference. He said, yes. And then I called my father, and my father said, no, you're too young. You're going to go later. I was like, oh. So I'm going now, instead of my sophomore year.
Oh, and that's the question. We'll jump ahead to it, but across the board, what is the responses? I mean, you told us a little bit about what your dad said, but what is the response you got from people when you said, I'm going to do this now?
Yeah.
Well, you're 22?
Yeah, 22. Most people said, oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to see what you're going to do. Some people were concerned also about the dangers there, my father included. Obviously, he can't say no because he's a pastor of a Christian Missionary Alliance church, and he wants people to be in missions, so it'd be kind of a hypocrite for him to refuse to let me. But, and some people, they were kind of upset that I'd be leaving. You know, a lot of people say that there's mission work to be done right here. Why do you have to go away? And others don't agree with mission work in general because they think it's too invasive and too forceful, but they just don't. I don't think they've ever been part of missions, so they don't know exactly what it is. They're thinking old-timey when people took over land. We're like, you have to believe our faith if you want to be a human being. And that's not what I'm going to be doing. So.
I'll throw you a little bit of curveball, and I didn't email you this question ahead of time, so please, if you don't have a full answer, I understand. But just from what you're talking and saying, you're talking about some people saying, you know, there's some dangers there. How in your mind, or how through your faith do you address, you know, the potential for danger as a young woman going into a foreign country?
Well, I know that I have purpose back in America when I come back, so I'm not anticipating that I'll be dying there because God has more for me to do that I'm already starting to get involved in. So I guess it's just whatever. I'm just going to follow whatever the missionaries tell me is correct. The interactions between men and women there is a lot different, so you need to always be with somebody. Don't go off on your own. stay in the correct areas. There's one man at my church, he's in Spain right now on a hike, but he was like, well, if you die, you die. It was God's will, right? And I was like, well, yeah, but not quite that.
Yeah, don't talk to mom and dad, huh?
Yeah. But yeah, it does take a lot of trust. I think getting sick is a bigger concern, I think, than the other dangers from the water, from the food. You know, you could easily get sick from all of that. So we'll just have to be very careful.
What, thus far into the process, what have you learned about God and from God?
Learned a lot.
Sorry.
I guess I've been learning more about how to feel completely connected to God all the time, because oftentimes we're there praying for a while and we're like, hey, this is awesome. And then you go back to your life, and it takes a lot of effort to keep that connection up all the time, to always be intentional about how you are living with Him. And I think that's why I wanted this as well, because when I'm in Africa, I really have no control. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no independence of my own, so I will have to be completely dependent. So He's been starting to throw me things here that make me have to do that as well, which can be miserable and awesome at the same time. But He's been teaching me patience, and I'm not very good at patience. So I'm terrified of what's going to happen that will require that patience, because it's going to be difficult. So God is really warm. Been learning about His warmth and His eagerness to use all of us, no matter what your abilities are. I don't speak French, but they do, so we'll see how God uses my non-French speaking skills to reach people.
Why is it important for you and I guess others to go and do this sort of work in and for the kingdom of God in this world?
Right, well, I mentioned before, a lot of people say that there's so much ministry to be done here, there's so much mission work to be done here, but I think that the best way to see where you are is to leave and look back, because a lot of times when you're in the very middle of it, you don't really notice what's going on. And I love to clean, so I'm going to use a cleaning analogy here. In your house, I'm sure there are lots of mail on your dining room table, or whatever table it is that your mail goes on, because nobody puts it away immediately, or you have that stinky thing in the fridge that nobody wants to clean, and you walk past it every day. You say, oh, that's gross, I got to clean that up. Oh, that's a mess, I should clean that up, I'm going to clean that up. And you never do. If you don't do it the first time you notice it, you're probably not going to for a very long time. But then I notice when I go to someone else's house to help them clean out a room because somebody's visiting, or to help them clean out their fridge, or just clean in general because they aren't able to themselves, I feel energized and motivated by helping them out. And then I come back to my house, I'm like, oh, this is a world of filth compared to what I just cleaned at theirs. This is gross. And so I'm more willing and motivated to clean up my own home once I'm there. So it's just, you have to go big or go home. Go big and then come home, and keep going big.
All right. Kind of switching gears a little bit. The church in America is coming to a place that a lot of experts are looking to, and they're saying that there's going to be a crisis here, in that young people are growing up and they're not considering long-term or full-time ministry as an option for their lifestyle. And as someone who's kind of entering into that, on the cusp of that, what do you say to that?
I think America is just too cushioned, I suppose. There are so many other job opportunities, but I think in the church specifically, we just need to example it more and to encourage it more. I know there are a lot of churches, they say, oh, our youth don't go on missions. I'm like, well, have you taken the youth on a missions trip? Like, have you given them that opportunity? And just giving them opportunities to learn all of their options out there, I think, is the best way. With my Christian Missionary Alliance Church, we always have missionaries come and speak, and I know they motivate a lot of people, and you can see what it's like and where your life can lead you, because there's a lot that you have to give up to become a full-time missionary. And if you see how someone has dealt with giving up those things and is still happy, and perhaps happier than those who are surrounded by everything that they've ever wanted, they're more likely to be interested in doing it, to see it as an option.
What can we do for you before you go to Burkina Faso?
I've been thinking about that one.
Are you just ready to go, huh?
Yeah, let's go now. You can switch my ticket to tomorrow. It's $150 to switch the date, so if you want to switch the date to tomorrow, that'd be great. But just prayer, I suppose. Prayer for physical strength as well as emotional and spiritual. For sure, there's going to be a lot of spiritual hardships over there that I'm not familiar with. I haven't really experienced a lot. I mean, over there, like, they don't deny the existence of evil and of demons like people do here in America. They're fully aware that they exist, they are terrified of them, and they worship them so that they don't die. And so they open up a lot of doors that are terrifying, and it's completely present there. So trying to get ready for that. And that's rough.
Well, because what I think people need to realize, you're going, you won't be by yourself, but you're not going with any of your regular support, people you know or know well. So you're going to be there with a bunch of strangers who will love you and care for you, but it's you're not going to have that to fall back on.
Yeah, that's hard. I think I said that here one time, that the hardest thing for me is to share my fears and weaknesses with other people. So if I'm not with the people that I can normally do that with, it's going to be difficult to tell somebody, hey, I need help, hey, I'm struggling, or hey, I'm miserable, can you make me happy again? Because, you know, you always think if you tell them they're miserable, they might think that you're wrong for this job and they'll send you home. So, you know, I guess just pray that I find people that are understanding and that I can accept to be understanding for me.
Now, what can we do for you while you're there? You had mentioned prayer, and let's reiterate that, everyone, every day.
Yeah, prayer's good. My other church back home, they have said that, you know, whatever I need while I'm there, if it's, you know, the orphanage needs a new oven, or if you want to donate for a well, I'll be keeping you guys updated. So if you want to be more involved in the ministries over there, if you want to donate a well, or if you want to donate clothes or books or something to the schools, I'll make sure that those doors are open to you too.
Okay. Now, you did mention that you will have access to some internet at least sometimes.
Yes, I will be keeping up a blog. So if you check my Facebook, you will see my blog there. And if you're not on Facebook but you have email, you can give me your email address, and I'll email the links to you every time I update it. And hopefully it goes well. Hopefully I don't have any grammatical mistakes.
We'll just assume it's because you're learning to speak French, right?
Put in some French punctuation.
Any thoughts on what comes after Burkina Faso for you, or are you just waiting for the experience and then going to go from there?
Well, long term, I'm waiting to see what will happen from there. But when I return, at the moment, I will be taking over my church's youth ministry because the previous youth leader had to step down. So I'll be working with them and looking for a job just to keep me, I don't know, for a while. I don't know how many years. I don't know what's going to happen. So just keeping that open, I guess. But I'm excited for the youth ministry, and I'll get a lot of experience while I'm in Burkina working with the street boys and the English-speaking youth. So I feel prepared for the rest of my life for now.
For now, huh?
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Does anyone have any questions for Jessica? Oh, Lauren, she's been waiting.
You kind of touched on it because he said about can we help you, and you said about well, but can we send you things like Oreos or something to cheer you up?
Yes, you can send me Oreos.
I didn't know
Absolutely.
if we're allowed to send you
Yeah.
email.
I should have brought my address with you. I can't memorize the address because it's like 20 numbers. They
like
don't
foreign.
leave weird addresses over there, so it's hard to memorize. But I will get the address for you so that you can send me letters. You can send me whatever you wish.
So like when Christmas comes around, and by I mean Christmas, to get to you, I mean like Thanksgiving, we can, send you maybe some Christmas gifts or whatever and
Yeah, that'd be
encourage you.
awesome.
All right. Anyone else? Roger.
A long time because I have 3 layovers. So I start in Buffalo, and then I'm leaving the country from Newark, New Jersey, and then I'll be landing in Brussels, France, and from there I'll go to Ouagadougou. So I think from New Jersey to Brussels, France, I didn't really figure it out much because they have a 6-hour time lapse, so it's difficult. But it's probably going to be about 9 or 10 hours or more than that.
Okay, what kind of food are you going to be eating now? Okay?
No, probably not elephant. I think they protect the elephants over there. So probably mostly rice, chicken, that sort of thing. The missionary that I'm going to be living with, she hires a personal cook in the community just to provide job security for people and to get people into the home as another ministry. And that woman goes to the market and she picks up fresh fruit and vegetables 3 days a week. So probably be eating a lot of fruit, vegetables, and rice, which I love. So that's fantastic.
And she knows how to prepare it for
Yeah,
us
she knows how to
Westerners. Huh?
prepare
Yes. Anyone else have any questions for Jessica? Paul.
What is the time zone over there? I got wondering what the time zone is.
Yeah, well, what's the difference? Do you know?
6 hours ahead.
Your sister's 6 hours ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I got wondering.
So you'd be eating dinner over there right now.
Yes.
It's kind of put it into perspective. Okay, anybody else?
Jessica, are you gonna have to drink that water like we saw?
No. The apartment complex I'll be living in is in the city where they have access to filtered water. And I bought a filtered water bottle, so if I'm ever out in public and I need water, I can use my filtered water bottle. Yeah. Yeah, I'll have plumbing, I'll have air conditioning if I want it, but air conditioning costs more money, so I probably won't. And I'll have Wi-Fi, so I'm good.
Well, you haven't been there yet, so maybe it's not an unfair question, but you did kind of mention it, you know, from the city to the countryside. It's not like us here, right? Like where, you know, you might not have, you know, everything we have in the city, but we're pretty good here. I mean, it's a stark difference between city and countryside out there, from what you understand.
Yeah. I mean, the city basically looks like a horrible country, except it has taller buildings. So everywhere there is just dust and hot and gross and not fun. But I'm gonna have a great time. Can't wait. But yeah, it's unsanitary, it's unclean. People live so close together. They don't have strong houses, so I don't know. It's just a struggle every day there.
Roger.
Is it winter or summer? What's the weather?
It's rainy season and then humid, hot season and then dry season. So they really only have 3. It's going to be about 90 degrees in the high 90s while I am there, but it drops to the 70s, sometimes 60s at night. So it's not going to be like South Africa is about 125 degrees average, but
Yeah, that song, Please Don't Send Me to Africa,
yeah.
that's the weather you get.
I like heat though.
All right, Pam?
What is the main industry, or what do they do to earn a living, or?
I think that there is some clothing export, so there are some factories in the cities, but otherwise they don't really interact with the rest of the world. That's why they're still a third world country, so they just try to grow their own food, whatever they can. I mean, it's very expensive over there. If you want a home like I'm going to be living in, it's about $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and the average Burkina person makes about $12,000 a year, so that, I mean, it's just
They can't
not
afford
going
it.
to happen. So they build a mud hut and survive that way.
Roger.
What kind of transportation are you using?
Taxis. When I'm around the city, I'll be doing taxis, and when we go to the bush country, they have a lovely truck. And you just pile in, and you pile on top, and take as
Yeah.
many people as you can, as far as you can, and then help out whoever you can once you get there. No. No seatbelts.
Well,
They're crazy in Africa.
my hope is that you fly out September 18th. So starting today, but particularly ramping up September 18th for 4 months, January 25th is when you're flying back,
Yes.
that you will pray for Jessica every day. And when we come together as corporate worshipers in a Sunday morning session or anything else, that you would hold me accountable and remind me when we're taking prayer requests, hey, let's be sure to pray for Jessica here today. And because that is one of the most powerful things we can do. Look, we're not all called to go be missionaries in a different country, but we are all called as followers of Jesus Christ to play a part in spreading his gospel to the whole world. And by supporting Jessica, we can do that. She does the heavy lifting, but we play a role in that. Is there just anything final you'd like to say?
Thanks. No, really, thank you so much for your support. You guys were awesome. You were so ready and willing to support support me and to love me, and that's been a great encouragement to me, just to know that no matter what God asks me to do, I have people there who will help me do it. So that was awesome.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us today, Jessica.